I was youthful in my appearance. I was 26 years old. I probably looked like 18 or 19. And so they said, oh, he doesn't know anything. I surmised that. And so they just told me I had to behave and be a good boy. But they quizzed me for 6 weeks to learn everything they could, especially about operations on the ship and what have you, airplanes, targets, things like that. Of course, I learned that they love to talk about their history and their fight against colonialism and so forth. So I would ask questions about that and get them talking rather than them asking me questions about bases in California or what have you. I thought at the end that, oh, by the way, when they started the interrogation, they brought in food from a restaurant outside, which was much better. And I didn't get, so that food continued until, and the conditions, and I didn't know what was going to happen to me. They had a visitor come to Hanoi for the Christmas. He was from Cuba, and the Vietnamese asked if I wanted to go home with him and his delegation. And I said, sure. Why not? I mean, sure. They said, well, first you must do certain things. And I said, I can't do that. So that opportunity passed by. And I figured, well, we'll see what happens. But then, beginning of February, things started to happen. So when we started to bomb the North again. Up until then, there'd been nothing. I said, I figured, this is it. I guess I'm not going home. The war's starting now. And I said, I wasn't going to help them. And so that's when they took me out of that, took me back and put me in a cell that was 7 foot by 7 foot. A little air hole up above in the doors, and they had these leg irons they would clamp from outside. And so it was a pretty little bleak area, and had 2 concrete slabs that you use as a bed. And I was there until September, when they realized that I knew there were people around me, because I had already, by September, made contact. So I was there from March, April, May, June, July, August, 7 months. And then I had made contact with other Americans through the bottom of our dishes, scratched little messages and things like that. And then when they recognized that I knew there were people around me in other areas in the camp, that's when they took me out and put me in with the first 14 guys, 14 that were shot down. And we were taken to a camp outside of Hanoi. That's when the second phase of my POW life began. I got my first cellmate at the beginning of November '65. So from then on, except for periods of punishment, I always had a cellmate or 2 cellmates, or then later on 3 cellmates, and the groups got bigger and bigger. And then towards the end of the war, we were in cells of 20 bigger cells, and they would move us around from camp to camp. So they moved me from that place that we later called the zoo to, after a couple of months there, they took me back, me and my cellmate and others, back out to the camp that was out in the countryside. Called that the Briar Patch. Had no electricity, no running water. Took us from that camp and brought in. A number of us trucked us into Hanoi, and we were marched down the streets of Hanoi, about 50 of us. We call that the Hanoi March. That was in July of 1966. And things were starting to turn rough by then. And after the march, things really got rough, where they where they would torture us for propaganda and use all various schemes. And that lasted. Those conditions lasted for me, from about June of '66, May or June, until summer, July of '69. So about 3 years of constant punishment, torture, different things.